Hey everybody, we're a little late. Things have been crazy this week. We have so much to talk about. I know I was in a really bad mood today because of all of the shenanigans going on in the South with voting rights, and we are definitely going to spend a fair amount of time on that tonight. But first, this story we've all been hearing about, the hantavirus, that I feel like it's been very much changing. Like it changed from this morning to even right now. I'm gonna play a little clip for y'all. Let me load it up. Where are you? That was this morning, which sounded like the latest news, right?
Global health officials and those in the U.S. are racing to contain a deadly hantavirus outbreak as new cases emerge linked to that cruise ship in the Atlantic. KLM Airlines now saying one of the ship's passengers, who later died from the virus, boarded a flight in Johannesburg before crew members decided she was too sick to travel. Dutch health officials are now contacting the passengers who were on that plane. Meanwhile, Switzerland has confirmed a new case of the virus in a man who'd previously been on the ship, the first confirmed case in Europe. Here in the U.S., we learned overnight that people in at least 2 states, Arizona and Georgia, are being monitored. So far, no symptoms have been reported. The ship was initially carrying nearly 150 passengers and crew, including 17 Americans. But some passengers were allowed to leave the ship before the full extent of the outbreak was known. One passenger still on board was quoted by a Spanish newspaper saying 23 people disembarked at an earlier stop, adding there are 23 people wandering around there, and until 3 days ago, no one had contacted them. The World Health Organization says contact tracing is now underway.
It's an incubation time of about 1 to 8 weeks where the symptoms are developing. It's like flu-like symptoms. You have pain, muscle pain, fever, feeling weak, etc.
The CDC says it will be monitoring the health status and preparing medical support for all of the American passengers on the cruise, adding the risk to the American public is very low. The rare virus is typically spread through exposure to rodents, but this particular strain can spread between humans through close, prolonged contact. 3 people who were on the ship have died. The ship is expected to dock in Spain's Canary Islands this weekend, where passengers will undergo health assessments before being sent home unless their condition prevents travel.
So I think that is so problematic. The WHO just confirmed that there's an up to 8 week gestation period. Hey, Milena, you got your mask on. Before we went on, I just placed an order for masks, for KN95 masks.
There's an update to that because it's actually 40 people. The AP said 40, not 23 even.
I found a creator. So that's what I'm saying. It's changed. So this creator on TikTok, she's also on Instagram, had a really good recap that she posted like an hour ago. So let's listen to this too.
Updates about the hantavirus, including 5 states here in the U.S. that are being monitored. So buckle up because we've got to go over it. I told you guys in a previous video how about 30 people had disembarked on April 24th when the body of the first person who passed from the hantavirus was removed from the ship. Those people have spread out all over, and these are the 12 countries that are being watched and traced. As of 7 p.m. Eastern Time, May the 7th, there are 5 states in the United States that are now being monitored because of contact cases. They include Texas, California, Arizona, Virginia, and Georgia. And let's talk about Georgia for a minute. 2 contact cases have been confirmed in Georgia. And apparently, one of the women made a post at some point that she has now deleted, talking about how she was on the ship but has no symptoms. Honestly, even if I did have her information, I wouldn't share it because there's so many people that are mad, I think it would endanger her. Also, the Georgia DPH is saying that these individuals are currently in good health and showing no signs of infection. Mind you, the incubation period can be up to 45 days. And they're saying that they believe this came from the couple who got off at one of the ports in Argentina and went to do some bird watching that was near a landfill where they got the Andes virus, the substrain of this hantavirus. California has not disclosed how many people they're monitoring. Virginia says that their resident is in good health and they are under public health monitoring. Texas has identified 2 residents, but apparently they are not experiencing symptoms either yet. Same thing with Arizona. This comes after the 3 infected people were evacuated off the ship in Cape Verde, and now the ship is on its way up to the Canary Islands where it's going to dock. Local government has tried to push back. Prime Minister of Spain says, we're letting them in. Everybody that's not from Spain is going to immediately be sent back to their countries unless that changes. And then we know nothing about if they're going to have a quarantine process when they get back there. Finally, someone in the US is urging Mark Rubio to create some sort of repatriation plan for the 17 US citizens that are going to be sent back after they dock at the Canary Islands. He made a statement you can pause and read right there. All the while, the WHO is still saying that it's very hard to catch this human-to-human version, that there's very little risk of catching it on flights, although...
So I'm hearing that it's airborne. You know, we'll see. I think we're just still learning more. But the fact for this sounds like a whole lot of incompetence here. And then add to the fact that we have RFK Jr. running the HHS show here. And then we have a president who told folks to drink bleach is now, you know, president again, and no one's going to stop him. We are incompetent as well. So this is not a good combination. What do y'all have to say? Because
35% rate of fatality. It's very scary. And I just went to Argentina a few months ago, and I'm like, my husband is still kind of sick. Should I have him see? And he doesn't have any like respiratory symptoms.
Yeah, it's respiratory. You know, I think
it was worrisome. It's worrisome.
Yeah.
And we actually were in Patagonia.
Yeah. Oh. I want to just point out the news that kind of was breaking about an hour ago, that apparently Trump and RFK Jr. Gutted the program. I'm just going to read it. Reports indicate the program was gutted, with numerous full-time inspectors responsible for cruise ship outbreak investigations. They were fired or laid off. We are dealing with absolute incompetence. Absolute incompetence. Like, this isn't... Did we learn nothing from the pandemic? I mean, wasn't that where the whole issue kind of started, right? I happen to know the first person who passed away in my county. It was a big deal. He was on a cruise ship. It's a thing. I don't know
why people take cruises. Honestly, I know they can be very cost effective. And you can take the whole family and all that shit, but they are petri dishes. Like
there is no amount of money you can pay me.
Yeah. Ever since that, remember that Carnival cruise? I think it was in the Caribbean, where all the sewage situation wasn't working. They had to share
a documentary. Yeah,
you had to share a shit bag with other travelers. Like, no,
there was sewage coming up in the rooms. Yes. And
I was never a fan of cruises, but that's when I was like, never
a thing.
As soon as we swim.
I have been on a lot of cruises, and they're generally okay. But once we got rotavirus on a cruise, and then we were quarantined and we couldn't get off the ship, so there's always that risk. But I mean, they are fun, and there's all you can eat food, which is nice. And
there's
great
not
entertainment.
There's not enough food. You can't. I grew up in Florida, right around the corner from Cape Canaveral. So we, always people would go on cruises all the time. I have inner ear issues, even though we are a boating family. Like, I grew up on the ocean and stuff. It doesn't matter, because at some point your inner ear just gives out. Like, if you have them, and you know what I'm talking about. And even if you get patches, and even if you do the Dramamine, if you have a bad day, you're going to feel it. And so I've known that my whole life. And then on top of that, I have the OCD contamination stuff, where I don't like germs, not a big fan of them. Definitely not a big fan of being trapped with them in the sea. And so I did a video on this, if anybody's interested, and it's like a nice long 8-minute video. And I already dove into hantavirus, at least the background stuff. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to my page, because I talk a lot about it. But I did a couple updates since then, and I feel like, this is the problem, is that all these other countries are stepping back and reassessing and maybe talking about additional protocols and what to do. And we know that our country, the FDA and is it CDC, what other department, was covering up the vaccine reports. They were intentionally obscuring and making sure that they weren't releasing important information, research studies related to vaccines. So it's not even that they're not doing stuff. They're actively trying to not be transparent about things on purpose. So the lack of planning, but also the intentionality of obscuring and deflecting is even more problematic. And that's why this concerns me, especially as somebody living in Virginia, but I trust my governor. See, I'm like, I trust my
Yeah.
governor. I know Abigail Spanberger's queen, she's got this, but I am concerned about red states, especially those that are bowing the knee, as we're going to talk about for the rest of the live, to Donald Trump and all of his messiness. So that's where I stand with this, is that I feel like we're not going to ever know. We need to stay plugged into these other news outlets. Chris, you mentioned watching the Australia 60 Minutes. Was that on the
Yeah, that was on
ranch?
that was on the Epstein on
right
Zorro Ranch.
But
which,
and everybody's been watching that, but it's not even in this country.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah, I posted a video. It was like a 20 to 30 minute, 60 minutes in Australia. This is why you do have to look at international news. They did such a comprehensive. We already know about Zorro Ranch, right? The rumors and whatever, and the fact that it was kind of skipped over. The FBI didn't really investigate. There was a really well done 60 minutes, and it wasn't here. It was in Australia, and I edited it down to like 5 minutes for X, 3 minutes for Blue Sky. It's really gut wrenching what they expose. So
this is reminder: get all of your be getting your news not just from here. Like check multiple outlets. I mean, that's always best practices, is to check multiple outlets anyway. Most of us do that. We don't just get it from one source. We check many. That's great to do, but especially for something like this. And I think we all remember from COVID, if you were following, we were doing the same thing back then. So this is just, again, we're reliving, I feel like 2020 again.
I mean, I was getting
more
from China than here. So
yeah, 100%.
So
right now,
and the usual suspects are pushing ivermectin again. So please, folks, from somebody who has
there's no cure. So this is a really important point. There is no cure for this. There is no
ivermectin horse paste is not going to help you. Yeah.
You know, this is coming during the worst of times. I mean, we have incompetency everywhere, and viruses and bacteria change. So they're talking about a virus. That virus could have mutated and changed to something else that they don't know about.
I mean, they're saying that it doesn't. They're saying that it doesn't mutate like COVID did. But I would like to remind you all, they said a lot of stuff about COVID that they were very much wrong about.
And they're going by what old data is showing them. They're not going by what grows in the jungle, what lives under, in tree roots. And I just, mind blow.
Chris Q. Why am I saying Chris Q? What do you want to say? Because you've been trying to talk and we keep jumping over you.
There are several scientists on TikTok that I followed all through the pandemic that I very much trust. One in particular, Laughter and Light, who's an immunologist, and made a really comprehensive video on this and said out of 10, she's at a 4. That it's
that's
where we were. That's our number.
Yeah.
So but for
I'm at a 5 now. That was 4 this morning. Now I'm at a 5.
For a different reason than I think we're talking about. That she said in terms of the virus itself, it's not measles. It's not COVID. It is typically not transferred between humans, and even if it is, you're talking about less than 1 to 1. You're likely not to infect anyone else. Plus, it is not transferable while you are asymptomatic, which was a big problem with COVID. People were fine, they felt fine, but they were transferring the virus.
I was reading today that it was saying, and I sent Chris something from NBC News, right? And it said, I have the screenshot here, that the virus is most transmissible to other people in the early stages of the infection. So probably when you have mild symptoms, as opposed to when it gets worse. So maybe when you are symptomatic, but just not when it gets really bad.
So the issue with the symptoms is they're very general. It's
like headache, nausea.
Right. So it's not typically going to show as something that would raise an alarm for anyone initially. It's you have the common cold, you have the flu
Unless
or
you're me.
something.
Unless you're me,
So
then you'll
so
know.
there needs to be an acknowledgement that this isn't something that is going to get out of control right away. However, the reason that she was saying that we should be concerned is exactly what you all were bringing up, that we have abdicated our responsibilities on the world stage. We have ceded our scientific leadership to the world. We do not have a robust system in place to look at the virus as it is mutating, if it is mutating, and we certainly have no trust in our administration to tell us the truth, even if they do find anything out. So what the suggestion was, you take precautions as you should anyway of the things that we were doing in COVID. You know, you wash your hands frequently and for the correct amount of time. You don't touch your face. You mask in public spaces. That if you are concerned about this, you take the general precautions that we all should have learned 6 years ago. And unfortunately, the people that are the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene that are going on the internet and saying, take ivermectin, we know those people aren't going to follow those directions. And so if this thing were to become something more, we know who's going to fall victim to it. And you make sure that you're not the person that does.
All right, so we are going to move on to Trump's forever war. But I think the main thing we want to leave folks with on this is just stay alert, pay attention to, because it does seem like the information's changing. I think it is really important to find out where these possibly infected people are. We're hearing like this morning, there was 2 states. Now there's several more. So we just need to stay alert.
And that the point about it not being measles or not being COVID, not falling into a state of complacency just because it's not as contagious, right? Like treat it with respect and reverence. Do the things that Chris Q was just saying in terms of just what is really good hygiene anyway for cold and flu season. Like treat it like that. And I think that's part of the problem is that even if it's just the droplets and not totally airborne in the traditional sense, people don't wash their hands. People touch their face.
Men have stopped washing their hands in the bathroom. So I've seen it.
I cannot.
I'm just like, yeah, okay. So we're moving on. So we're at war right now, and it was never really crystal clear. I think everybody could agree on why we're at war, right? Like it was sort of like, oh, we're bombing Iran with Israel. Like what's happening here? But one thing they keep going back to, the big talking point is we took away their nuclear capability and all of that. So watch this clip.
Hole in the administration's claims about the Iran war, or specifically the regime's nuclear capabilities. Citing 3 sources familiar, Reuters reports U.S. intelligence assesses that Iran's nuclear capabilities are broadly unchanged, that the 2 months of American and Israeli air assaults have done nearly nothing to fundamentally slow their program. Today, as it was in January, these sources tell Reuters U.S. intelligence estimates it would take about a year for the Iranians to build a bomb. That matters because the president and the defense secretary have repeatedly said this is a war about stopping them from getting a bomb. And both have repeatedly argued that this war has been overwhelmingly successful. America's winning decisively, they've said, devastatingly and without mercy. A capital V military victory. They are toast. How is a now angered and still nuclear capable Iran less dangerous today? Less dangerous than they've claimed, especially when you add in their leverage over the Strait of Hormuz. At the White House today, in a bizarre Oval Office event, the president continued to present a completely different story. Surrounded by a group of kids there to watch him restore the Presidential Fitness Award, the president took questions on Iran, at one point describing in detail what the regime did to protesters, again, in front of kids, but also continuing to claim Iran's nuclear potential was obliterated with the first set of bombs last summer. which, putting the truth of that aside for a moment, again calls into question the point of this war. If the program was obliterated, why did we have to go into Iran, and obliterate it again?
It's a golden age for America. You know, we hit an all-time high stock market today, despite that we're in a little skirmish, military.
It's our middle
I call it a
school.
skirmish because Iran has no chance. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You might be too young for this. I called everybody in, Gary, and I said, you know what? We just broke every record, and now we're going to take a hit because we have to make a journey down to Iran to take the nuclear weapon. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Remember, we sent that beautiful B-2 bomber in, and we blew up their nuclear potential. It was obliterated. We would have had an Iran with a nuclear weapon, and maybe we wouldn't all be here.
And he went on to talk about transgender mutilization, which is like in front of children. So just to point out also, this war is very unpopular. It's not going to get any more popular. And I've been hearing, I don't know about you guys, he's talking about Cuba and shit. So, you know, I don't know what's going on in his head, and I don't know why people are supporting him at all. But they are. So
some cognitive decline is going on in his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some fascism, some white supremacy. Like, there's a lot of bad, messy stuff there. Why people are supporting him? Money,
yeah,
and similar ideological views.
Well, and that's the other thing. People are enriching themselves, you know, from this war. I think this is
people were talking today about the predictions and the contractor and all of that. How much money are people making here?
This screenshot I put up, breaking. Oil dropped below $100 the moment Trump announced the U.S. would guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Someone placed a $760 million short on oil before last announcement too. The strait has opened and closed 4 times in 2 weeks. Each announcement moves markets worth billions. Never stop connecting the dots. And see, he keeps doing this shit. And I think we just cannot keep saying like the Strait of Hormuz was open before this war. So this is not anything that he's saving the day on.
Can I just jump in right here?
Yeah.
You know, all of this, you know, taco thing, Trump always chickens out. I think it's a money-making scam. Like, I really think that there's so much corruption going on in here. And it's so funny how the same people that were crying foul over Hunter Biden having a deal with China and getting paid all this money from Ukraine or whatever, they have no problem with the fact that Trump and his family have gotten like $6 billion richer during 1 year in this administration. And I really think that we need to do a lot more to point out the corruption. And we should be screaming it from the rooftops because it is despicable and it is incredibly pervasive.
Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think that the problem is that it's sometimes just his incompetency. And so he's able to sort of like mask some of the deception, the deceit with just being incompetent, right? Like just being fickle, being who he is. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of other people behind the scenes that we talked about that a lot, about how many other people are back there kind of manipulating him and using him. Weekend at Bernie's hang him. And will continue to do that. And so it's just like at any given point, you have things coming from all these different directions and you're having to kind of assess, is this, you know, is somebody grifting us right now? Is this just incompetency? Is this, you know, is this fueled by Christian nationalism? Like where is the threat coming from? That's like, you know, what a fun time we're having in 2026. Just
yeah. So moving along here. So remember, it's been almost 2 weeks now since the correspondence dinner, hasn't it? It'll be 2 weeks this Saturday. So we're not going to get into all that. There's, you know, I'll play this one clip here, but we know what they used that moment for. So listen to this.
Was this just a coincidence? or another staged incident.
Tonight will be classic. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
Hours before the chaos, Caroline Leavitt told America to watch tonight because Donald Trump would bring the heat and there would be shots fired. Then suddenly, real shots were fired near the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Shots fired. The Secret Service rushes in and they let Trump continue to sit there. And now they're going to resume the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Trump still plans to deliver a speech. I'm not saying this was staged to boost Trump's tanking approval numbers, but it certainly looks odd. Trump was rushed out, guests hid under tables, Secret Service swarmed the room. So the question everyone is asking now, how did they know? Was shots fired just political slang or a chilling phrase that aged horribly within hours? Americans deserve transparency. If this was a real attack, security failures must be exposed. If it was political theater, that would be one of the biggest manipulations in modern history. Until the full truth comes out, millions will keep asking the same question: coincidence or calculated?
So, I don't know where y'all fall on this. I know where Casey falls because we were like, what the fuck? And I think most people on social were like, this seems staged. We can't prove it. We don't know. But even people on the right were saying this seems staged. I don't know the truth, but I do know all of these people, like an hour or two later, are all smiling as Trump is making the announcement, and he immediately pivots into, we need to fund the ballroom for security reasons, his Marie Antoinette ballroom. So that's kind of our segue here. Like this, whether you think it was staged or not, we do know for a fact they are using this as a pivot point to fund this ballroom, which started off at, what did it start off at? I know at some point it was $200 million.
$100 million.
$100 million, then 200, then 400 million, and now what? $1 billion? $1
billion. And but that's not for construction, and that's just for security provisions. So I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse about it, but that it's actually not for the construction. That's going to cost
dinner
more.
late last month.
That won't cost taxpayers. They're very insistent. Republicans are very insistent that that the only thing taxpayers are paying for is the $1 billion for security. So not construction.
And Mexico will pay for the wall.
Right. No money for cruise ship cleaning, but we do have $1 billion for a grand ballroom. Priorities, right?
And, that $1 billion they're taking from us after they cut Medicaid and the ACA by $1 trillion. And they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for the war. And yet they don't have any money for healthcare, but they have tons of money for, I don't know, repainting the bottom of the reflecting pool and an Arc de Triomphe for Donald Trump. And
the Eisenhower building.
It's crazy.
He put his name on the Kennedys. The Kennedys, literally already named after another president. Already letters there. Don't need your name. So he paid for stuff. God knows how much that is. To add to it, nobody asked him to do that. Not a single soul. And he took taxpayer dollars and he added to it. So it's not even like he's like, what isn't named that I can add my name to? He's like, oh, this is already taken. Let me just throw up some more letters. It's so reckless in terms of spending. And this coming from the party that insists that they are the party of fiscal conservatism. Bullshit. They never have been. They were always about inflating the defense and making sure that their billionaire besties get paid, which is exactly what's happening. But now we've added in the predictions market. So we've got another revenue stream happening now that wasn't there as much in the Reagan era, right? That's more, what are we calling the real-time trading? What is that? Like on
commodities?
Yeah. Well, now we have apps is what I'm saying.
Day trader
necessarily exists. Now it's accessible to everybody in a way that
are you talking about the poly market?
Yeah. Thank you.
Kalshi.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Kalshi. Mm-hmm.
And don't forget all the crypto.
Right.
Because
yes, that's true.
Companies can just invest in the president.
Fake. Literally. If y'all have some time, like if we do go down a quarantine road,
Yes.
might I add that you learn crypto, because when you really get into it and understand, like, and not just crypto, but like all of the different avenues of that, you'll want to punch something a lot. It's such a scam. Not the crypto necessarily, but I mean like the like what Donald did. What did he made a meme coin, the meme coin stuff that's
Which
like adjacent to
lost
it.
a lot of people a lot of money. Sorry.
95% of the value of their investment.
Yeah.
So watch this.
Hey guys,
Would actually be a
sorry I'm
beautiful
late, but
addition.
I
You're gonna
had a special visit with somebody,
Okay.
and,
Did you get
and
the
got a
bourbon?
nice gift. So
Is that the good stuff?
what?
Is that the good stuff?
You know what? I bet you this stuff is better than the stuff that this guy gives out.
Yeah. They're charging like crystal prices for like Dick Mist or whatever the hell you get at 7-Eleven in the cooler. That's what they're
And the
giving,
whole
I'm
thing
sure.
myself, it would do
Like
a
the
big,
bourbon equivalent
beautiful room, but we could use it at the White House.
Manischewitz. And if you've ever, and Milena knows, and if you've ever had Manischewitz, that is just god awful.
I used to steal it from the temple kitchen when I was a kid and ditch Holocaust, which is terrible, but I did ditch Holocaust classes because it was depressing. But I did go to some of them, and it made me,
Is that
the
like
kind of the
Catholic
fighter that I
wine?
understood.
I know Chris Webb is Catholic. I don't know who else is Catholic here. Surely somebody else is. Like that is that like communion wine? Is it the same
Kind
thing?
of.
I don't drink the wine because I'm not sharing.
Chris, I don't know if anybody else can hear you. I cannot.
You can't hear
You're
me?
gonna have to go back out and come back in.
We can hear you.
All right, I'll go back out and come back in.
Sorry, Adam.
Can you guys? All right. Well, anyway, let's watch this clip. This is ballroom shit here.
It would actually be a beautiful addition. It's going to cost nothing. I'll spend the whole thing myself. It would do a big, beautiful room, but we could use it at the White House.
We're going to introduce legislation that would authorize $400 million to be spent to secure to build the presidential ballroom. I'd like to vote as soon as possible to accelerate what America needs: a secure facility for the president and others to meet in, to have a good time.
I mean, to have a good time, and it was supposed to be Donald Trump was supposed to fund it with his donors, corporations, billionaire friends. And I remember I was saying all along, those are pledges. That's not actual money. I don't think he's gotten any of that shit. And now they're in a panic. They tore down the East Wing, and here we are with nothing, just a vacant space.
No one asked for this.
And have you guys been hearing there's discharge coming from the construction site, like toxic waste?
What?
Yeah. Yes.
I was gonna go down there and take some footage because I wanted to
wear
see
a mask.
And you can't see from, like, for a lot of this, you can't see driving around. You have to actually park and go. Like if you're looking at the reflecting pool, or if you're looking at like over where the East Wing was, by the White House. That's the whole point. By design, you can't get there with car very easily. You have to park and walk. So I was going to take a camera and go like take photos of all the construction stuff or video. But I'm kind of worried now that I am going to be super depressed.
Well, what about the golf course where they dropped a lot of that stuff?
I mean, so I don't know a lot about that, but it's a public golf course that Trump wants to take over and do his magic with or whatever, so that he doesn't have to go far to play golf. Oh, yay. Sorry, I was just going to say, look at this poll here. This is not popular. The Ballroom Project, his arch that Milena mentioned, and his signature on them, we're going to have his name on our money. No,
and his face on our passports.
Yeah.
Some people's special edition passports.
The thing that concerns me and worries me is that he wants to spend $1 billion to make this into a bunker.
Yeah.
Why does he want to spend $1 billion? So he can just lock himself in there and never leave. That's my concern. That's my concern.
After how many times did they say Biden was in the basement when he should have been leading?
It's like makes me think of Kimmy Schmidt and the Mole Women. I'm like, that's what it reminds me of. He's like that. He's the cult leader, right? And he's gonna take a bunch of the Mole Women down with him. That's like, what was it, Reverend? Why can I not think of the name for you? All know what I'm talking about. Reverend, what's his face from Kimmy Schmidt? That's what he was. He was an idiot. Like,
he can take Erica Kirk with him.
Yes, please. She would willingly go and be thrilled about it.
I mean, these people drank the Kool-Aid.
The bulk of Americans that are living in the real world day to day, that are paying these gas prices, that are paying rent, and TikTok and social media made it so that you can see things and compare things to 20 years ago, right? So when this girl's going through her grandmother's things and finds a receipt from back in 2005 or whatever, and then makes a video reading off what grocery prices were. And so people are reminded, wow, like, a 6-pack of soda was $1.30. And like now it's what, $8, or I don't even know what does anything cost now. And so people, it's not just that people are individually feeling it, it's that everybody's coming together in communities and sharing their frustrations and their anxiety about the fact that they can't retire and that they can't take vacations. And so even though there are some people who are really into this, whatever that is, most people are like, what are you doing, bro? Like, we can't pay for groceries. Like, or we can pay for groceries, but then we can't pay for, rent, or we can pay for rent, but we have to start driving DoorDash or taking on another job or whatever. Everybody's having to make these major sacrifices. And not only is this man not sacrificing, he's building more unnecessarily, things that we didn't ask for. And as Chris Webb made a good post on this, the reflecting pool is now actually going to cost us more money because now it has to be serviced every 5 to 10 years. So now not only are we having to pay and incur this initial expense, now we're going to have to do that every 5 to 10 years, unless somebody goes in there and rips it down, which that's also going to cost money too, right? Like, so whatever we end up doing here, this man has wasted taxpayer money at a time when we don't have it to extend because he has ruined our economy. And most people know that. What the confusion is, and this is where we still have some moderates and people that are kind of coming over to the other side, the confusion lies in, why would he do this? There's still people that are confused about why a president that supposedly is supposed to love this country doesn't.
I think he's an idiot. Like this right here. First of all, the right is really in their feels about this. Like I've done 2 posts on it. I'll show you a video from the first one I did. My point is this, and I realize this is not a swimming pool. I am fortunate enough to have a swimming pool. We remodeled our swimming pool a few years ago, but the contractor I hired does municipal pools and fountains. Okay. And so what this is an epoxy. It's a coating. Underneath this is slate that has been there over 100 years. It's still there. My understanding is they repaired it and coated over it, and they're coating this blue over it. Now, this pool was designed as a reflecting pool. The slate is like dark gray, black, whatever. It reflects. A lot of people were commenting that it looked gross. There was growth there, blah, blah, blah. Do you guys know what this is going to look like in 2 months after it's filled with water? Unless they put in a filtration system and are pumping chlorine into it, it is going to look like a green swamp. That's the first thing. Then in 7 years,
that seems appropriate, Chris, doesn't it?
I mean, I think it's such a fucking money. But the reflecting pool was supposed to reflect the monument. It was supposed, now it's going to look like a blue pool.
It's right there in the name.
Blue pool.
Yeah, right there in the name. That's what it does. It's supposed to reflect.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be this shiny blue pool. That's the point.
And I'm just telling you, this isn't going to be blue for long. It's going to be green. And it's going to look even really gross.
But
they'll blame Biden somehow. Somehow it's going to be Biden's fault.
All of these naming projects, all of the construction projects, all the painting, everything. This is the equivalent of giving a toddler an iPad. This is let's let him focus on these things that he feels like, he is the developer, he is the builder. so that we can run the real stuff in the background, because clearly he is not able to do that.
And he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. He's dying, and he knows that he's dying. And he's made references to that. We've talked about it here on the live, and it's always usually near the bathroom on the plane. And I don't know why, but like he's always talking about like existential things there, and how he's not getting into heaven or whatever. So we know like he's been told that he's ill. He knows he has health problems, and so he's like, I have to leave a legacy so people don't think that. I mean, I want to be remembered. I want to be the problem after this is all said and done, and he will. And it's going to take, as we go through and talk about other things that he's done, because pretty much everything stems back to him or the Republican Party for what we're talking about today. And the things that he's done are going to take generations to fix at this point, like to really rectify. So we are going to have memories of him. I got into sort of a depression for like about an hour last week. We didn't have the live, but it was like realizing that like the passport thing and the money and like all the, like anything that he can get his name on that's going to be in circulation, like passports, whatever, there's still going to be essences of him. Like even if we try to forget him and try not to think about him, there's still going to be and I was like, oh my God, like we're not going to get rid of this man. And that's what he's doing on purpose. So that's, I think a lot of this too is just, I want to be there even when I'm not. Even
you know what though, Casey? We shouldn't forget him. We should remember what he did to our country and how he destroyed our country. And I showed my little stickers, putting these up at gas stations and on supermarket shelves. $5 for a thing of raspberries that cost me like $3 like a month ago when it was even less in season. I mean, people should not forget. And that's like the reason why I was saying I was in a Holocaust class. You should not forget the evil. And so when I see those dollar bills, I'll say, all right, isn't evil fuck on them? Excuse my language. I
don't think we'll forget, because he's cost lives. I mean, he really has
cost lives.
And but I will say that I want, I don't really think we should be focusing on 2028 by any means, but whoever that person is, they need to be actively talking about justice in a way that makes sense. Because I don't want to hear anyone's, any talk about like, oh, well, we got through this, we're going to now, be bipartisan, all that shit. Like, I'm not ready. I am not ready to hear that.
No.
The man is taking a decade of our lives, and we haven't turned the corner yet.
Not at all. And like I said before, we are closer to the beginning of this administration than the end still. It's like
what needs to happen is the Democrats the moderate conservative Democrats need to split off, and they can go absorb the ex-Republicans. The MAGA people can just go straight to hell. And then the far left and the progressives can go make it should be an ideological shift that we should be seeing that anyway. So this makes sense. Let's do that. And then we don't have to worry about having any bipartisan with Republicans technically, because they're all gone.
Yeah. Let's watch this clip that we kind of hinted at before, but to me, this part takes it to a new level. This man is not well.
They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Remember, we sent that beautiful B-2 bomber in, and we blew up their nuclear potential. Don't forget, they killed 42,000 people last month. 42,000 unarmed protesters. And when they start shooting them right between the eyes, and you see a guy fall and another one fall, and you have no guns. When you have transgender mutilization, don't listen to this, kids. Of your children, transgender mutilization of your children.
That's not a word.
So he knew he shouldn't have been saying that in front of those children.
Right. It occurred to him after he'd already said this. That's the thing. He's slow. His mind's too slow now. And this is what I've been saying time and time again. It used to be that he could say things or go off the cuff, and he would leave his speech, and we would usually know when he did it, but he could still say, now he can't fuck up in real life because he can't correct himself. He can't turn the ship back in time. And also I would like to point out, this is very evident that he has never raised a child himself. He's never parented.
It's like he's never been grocery shopping.
Those kids will never be the same. They will not sleep at night.
Did you see the part where he actually addresses the boy? I think you'll be okay. Like he asks him what sport he was in, and then he goes off and talks about transgender children in sports. And he's just so rude and so gross with these children. It's unbelievable. And you just can't believe that anyone would look up to this man and think, oh, this is the guy who's smart and good and someone I want my kid to be like. Who would think that?
So I saw this little shot here. Apparently he fell asleep after. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't see that in the video, but that sounds true. That sounds like him.
What breaks my heart, you guys, as a mom of 3 kids, I didn't have conversations with my children. There was a young girl there, just a young little tiny girl. I didn't have conversations about nuclear war and dropping bombs with my children until I knew like there was a curriculum, there was something that we could talk about history-wise. As far as like I didn't want to create any kind of unnecessary fear, right?
Right.
Because of how you explain things to children. That is not the way. That is not the way you speak to a young girl.
Like when I grew
I'm
up,
so blown away.
Hiding under your desk to kiss your butt goodbye. Because, I mean, really, we hid under desks for what?
I mean, I don't know. You know, on the encyclopedic length of ridiculous, inappropriate, awful things that Trump has said, you know, this to me is pretty low on the list. I know it's in front of kids, and I know obviously it was horribly inappropriate, but
I don't think. I think it just shows how unwell he is, because any normal person would walk into a room with children, and you're there to give a. It was an award for the fitness test for schools. That was the point of this meeting. There's athletes back there. There's children. There's no reason why that wouldn't be in your head, but he pivots to the war and transgender mutilation. So I think the whole point of this is like, this man is not balanced. He's not well, and he's getting worse. Like he has no control over anything.
Something that
I'm surprised it didn't go to the, and you know, I won the 2020 election in a landslide. You know, they stole it from me. And
so did you guys notice? I don't know if you guys pay attention to John Jr., but he seems to show up on my page quite a bit. He had posted something about us staying at Dad's house. I don't know if you guys saw that. So
yeah, like a sleepover. Right? Yeah,
like a sleepover. And I've also been seeing Melania. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name properly. Melania. She's been with him at a lot of events lately. I feel like the family's getting a little bit closer for a reason, because one, suddenly she's there with him and wanting to show up. That doesn't seem normal to me.
I don't think she does it because she cares. I think that's their meal ticket. And
I think it's an ask. I think they're asking her, can you please come help us out with him? That's what I think.
But she's not really doing anything effective though at these events.
No, but if you notice, she's much closer and much more involved than she has been in the past. And I feel like they're needing somebody to, you know, somebody who knows him, who can control him, can kind of keep him in check. And when Don Jr. posted that, it just sent off all the red flags. I was like, okay, why would you even post that in such a way? I thought it was
his dad and his stepmom don't even sleep in the same bedroom. So I don't know. I don't know how well she knows him. I mean, we know she didn't marry him for his good looks and charm.
Oh, gross. You know, the slurring of the words has gotten much worse.
Yeah.
Did you guys see him getting off Air Force One the other day?
Ask you if you had that video.
I didn't bring the video, but
crazy.
It was crazy the way he was walking. It was like he was going. Like
it looked like he was doing one of those like obstacles that you know, those like trail runs where they have the things that you do, like the S curve. Like
You could
that's what it
actually
looked like.
see him trying to correct himself. It was
No. You guys have it wrong. It was, you know, he was doing the in-laws thing. Serpentine shell. Serpent. Please tell me somebody gets that joke.
Well, you know what's interesting is that Melania is like way younger.
That was a
than
showstopper.
Trump. I mean, she's like a little bit older than me, and she's with that guy. And like
I said, she's married him for good looks and charm.
But I was gonna say that this, like Adam was saying, this is just like one little thing that he said. Yeah. He has been saying things that are so insane for the last year at least, but even ongoing beyond that. But in the last few months, if any other, imagine if Joe Biden would have said some of the crazy things that Trump has said, or if Barack Obama were to say that.
Remember on Air Force One, you know, most of the time they're coming out of the front stairs, and then toward the end of Biden's presidency, they had him come out of the back stairs because it's not as steep, and that was a big deal. Trump can't even walk a straight line.
He couldn't walk the plank. Remember when he was walking down that plank? That was the first term.
That was his first term.
Yeah, he couldn't do that. That was embarrassing.
He's afraid of falling. He's afraid of falling.
That there's a reason for that because he's done it in real life.
Give him a little push.
Agrees.
Yeah, and if you just see him sitting and going, like, you very rarely now do you see him actually going from standing to sitting or sitting to standing, because he requires support to do that. So
and he sits like a chicken. If you've ever seen a chicken sit, she squats and kind of puts her butt back to the bar.
Oh, I'm never gonna look at it the same way. Get it out of my brain.
A chicken squatting. Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, I don't have a good segue here, but I did want to share this video because I just thought it was so rich that they are calling. Well, I'll just play it. Hold on.
It's hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years.
So just to set this up, now that I see it again, this was after the ballroom or after the shooting that we still don't know all the details. And they pivoted to the ballroom, and social media was just like, this is crazy, no, you know, whatever. And this is their pushback.
Day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment. Those who constantly falsely label and slander the president as a fascist, as a threat to democracy, and compare him to Hitler to score political points are fueling this kind of violence. The left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend.
The so-called White House press secretary, who's a disgrace, she's a stone-cold liar, had the nerve to stand up there and read talking points being critical of statements all taken out of context that Democrats have made, and didn't have a word to say about anything that MAGA extremists have said or done, including providing aid and comfort to violent insurrectionists. And this so-called White House press secretary wants to lecture America and lecture us about civility. Get lost, clean up your own house.
I have a list here, actually, of some of the words he's used to describe the left. He has called them scum, vermin, terrorists, radical, lunatics, demonic, evil, garbage. I'm not done yet. The enemy of the people, enemy within, treasonous, lowlives, fascists, Marxists, communists. And on top of that, it's not even just the words that he uses. When we look at what is going on with political violence in this country, Trump, when he had a moment to say, hey, the attack against Paul Pelosi was wrong, what did he do? He mocked it, and so did other Republicans. They made light of an attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband when she was the target. He celebrated the deaths of Rob Reiner, who him and his wife were murdered by their son. He praised the death of Robert Mueller, his perceived political enemy, someone who is simply doing their job by having to investigate Donald Trump.
And remember this post when Robert Mueller died. He was like, good, I'm glad he's dead. So like, I don't think they're in any way to lecture anybody.
And not to mention, he's going after the Pope. He's going after the Pope, and he's posting pictures of himself as Jesus. I mean,
Well, Marco
that's
Rubio
not
is
crazy.
going to make all that better. That he's over there now. He's going to make that fine.
So he is really helping Democrats for the midterms, in my opinion. He's incredibly unpopular. Last week, not last week, but 2 weeks ago when we were on, we showed how his popularity within his own party, it's still relatively high, but it was in the 90s before. Now it's in the high 60s. That's huge. I think you're muted, Casey. Hold on. Oops.
See, you're muted.
I don't know what's going on with your mic. Anyway, so he's extremely unpopular. This is his
I'm not a fan of Rubio, but I felt safer with him there than JD Vance. I have to be honest.
With the Pope? Yeah, at least it wasn't the kiss of death.
Right.
All right.
There was an incident, I think it was when he went to check on the reflecting pool. He ripped into a female reporter.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, just lit into her.
And Casey stepped out, but she's talking about going to visit the White House, the construction. I actually want her to go to that reflecting pool and report to us on what that's like. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is, to me, I really liked. I'm going to show you a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm not trying to promote her, but I think what she said, like she's basically spilling the tea on Congress and Trump. And I think I think it's kind of an important point because she's confirming as an insider what we already know. And I do feel like she has a fair amount of followers within her own cohort. And so I thought this was kind of like a point.
And then I heard back from Donald Trump. And I've saved these text messages. I'd probably get put in jail if I released them publicly, but I saved them. Where Donald Trump proceeded to tell me that it was my fault. And that I deserve it. If my son gets killed, I deserve it because I was a traitor to him. That is our president of the United States. That's the man that says MAGA is whatever he wants it to be. That's the man that we elected to change everything. Well, he certainly changed everything for me. And I'll tell you, not only was it Donald Trump that changed everything for me, it was serving in Congress in the Republican Party that changed everything for me. It was seeing on the inside what a bunch of liars they all are. Not just Republicans, but Democrats too. They have no intention of doing the things that they promise you on the campaign trail. None. Right now, we have a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate. They have the power to do everything they want to do right now, and they refuse to do it. Do you want to know why? They're bought and paid for. They are bought and paid for. They don't work for you. They work for the giant industries that fund their campaigns. They work for the special interest groups that give them fundraisers. They work for the lobbyists that make best friends with them. Because many members of Congress are lonely in Washington. They're easy to make friends with. They're away from their homes. They're away from their families. They're away from everything that made them who they are. They're taken to Washington, D.C., which is an international city. It's like a foreign country. Washington, D.C. is a foreign country. It's run by a foreign country. It is. It's run by the secular government of Israel. And some other people and some other things.
So her anti-Semitism.
But it is.
But still.
And that's where they're taken. And so they're so easily taken advantage of. And one member of Congress can fund their entire campaign for their next reelection cycle in just a few fundraisers in Washington, D.C. It happens all the time. So when your member of Congress or your senator comes back home and they're claiming how they're there for you and representing you, most of them are not. They're not. They're representing the people that they see in Washington, D.C., and they don't see you there?
So I was kind of happy seeing that, but I will say 100%, she is not really seeing the light. She is trying to distance herself from Trump.
She's running for office. How long has it been since I said that? I wish I had somebody who could keep track of what I say, because I know that I've been talking about that for a long time. She has been rebranding on her rebranding tour, and the whole both parties thing. Like, she's tapped into the fact that that's a real popular. There's a lot of people that are disenchanted with both parties, and she's going to come in and capture those people and their sentiments, which are that they're not doing anything for you. So this isn't surprising.
Oh my God.
All right, guys, we're gonna, unless somebody has something else to add about Marjorie Taylor Greene, we are going to talk about voting rights and the racist attacks going on in the South that is just unfolded in record time. Whose music am I hearing?
Who has a ringtone like that?
That's kind of pretty. So anyway, a couple of months ago, y'all might remember Indiana, a bunch, states were talking about redistricting. California, we did our version, but Indiana actually refused to do it. And Trump basically primaried a bunch of basically the state legislator, the Republicans in the state that were against it. And I'm making this point because he's still got the power, because I think out of 7, 5 lost. Like, out of 7 people that he primaried, he was successful with 5 of them. One still won, and I don't know what happened with the other one. Maybe it's a runoff or something. I don't know. Does anybody know? That was on Tuesday. But, so he does still have, people listen to this man. I want to share something with you guys so last Wednesday is when the decision came down. Where's Adam? The decision came down, and I was lucky enough to go to an event. I'm going to show you a short clip, but it was an event honoring Kamala Harris got an award we have a local organization here called Public Counsel. And what they do is they are attorneys who historically, full disclosure, my mother used to work there. She's long retired. They would help with adoptions, people with housing, legal representation, right? So attorneys work for much lower pay than what they would if they work for a corporate law firm. And then certain attorneys will do pro bono work, like, okay, I'm going to give you 20 hours a week or whatever. This was an event. They hold it every year. There was about 70 law firms there, a lot of local officials. I'm telling you this because it was such a great event to be at on the day of the decision. So this is the evening of the decision. So Kamala Harris was already going to be there. The whole event was turned to voting rights and immigration. So also this organization, since Trump's first Muslim ban, they were very involved in immigration and helping asylum seekers and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of cases that we have been posting on that I didn't even realize they were involved in. But I want to show you this clip. Listen to what Kamala Harris says, and I hope this volume's okay.
Took our eye off the states. The lawyers didn't, but the electeds, especially in my party, some did. Meanwhile, this agenda has been decades in the making of building up these states around gerrymandering, so that as soon as you could then get the Supreme Court, that was their fever dream, then have the Supreme Court, after all that they did to build up this case, toss it back to the states, and the states are now strong enough to catch the ball and run with it. We also have to challenge status quo, and we cannot afford to be nostalgic about how things used to be, even when they were so-called good. And I think part of the work we have to do includes thinking about and challenging ourselves. We've got to have a litigation strategy, but that can't be our only strategy, is going through the courts, because right now, at least the highest court, we got to keep fighting through the courts. So I'm not saying anything other than that. We must. And let's also work with equal vigor with the brightest minds around what is our strategy outside of court also. because we've got to do this in tandem. This is how they play. They are strategic, they think long-term, and they are ruthless. And part of what I am saying tonight, and if there's press in the room, I don't care if you quote me, we have to be ruthless too.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like that, I wrote that down that night, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get this clip and post it, because I hope to see more of this Kamala Harris and more politicians on that level, because Republicans have been ruthless this entire time, and we Democrats have been fair, I think. Even in our response in redistricting, when we redistricted California, we went to our voters and they had a say-so in this. So they can say what they want, Republicans can say what they want, but I think Democrats have been fair in this entire process. And what's been so disturbing to me is, I'm sorry to take up so much time speaking here, but this has really been something. They hit the ground running. The red states, especially in the South, were ready. The minute that decision came down, they went full force. They knew what they were going to do. They didn't miss a beat. And on the other side, I think it's getting better, but I feel like we have been largely silent. And I think part of that, it's getting better now. Part of that was like, we didn't know what was happening. Like, what can we do? What can we help? I know Casey and I were leaving messages and talking back and forth, like, what is going on here? Nobody's saying anything. We're not hearing from, the leadership or anything like that. And it's still, I have to say, it's still a little disappointing there. So for me, I'm asking everyone to call it what it is. It's racist. I need people besides Black people to say it is racist, to call it out. I personally, I'm starting to reach out to groups in the South. What can I do? What can I put my voice to? What do you need? We need to promote organizations. I'm sure one thing about Black folks, they will organize. We may not realize it yet. They will organize. We're going to need to hear from Black churches. I think there is a problem. Maybe it's gotten better, but a couple years ago, we were trying to find groups in Mississippi before that election that had boots on the ground, because I think it's one thing to be digital about it, but like if you're looking in Black communities, there's a trust factor if you have boots on the ground that's a little bit different in other communities. If you have Black people knocking on doors to Black people, they're going to listen to you more. So groups like Black Voters Matter and Fair Fight are very strong in Georgia, but I want to find groups in other southern states that replicate that, right? That are boots on the ground. And if y'all hear of them, please let me know, because, I reached out to a friend in Alabama. I was like, can you put me in touch with organizations in Alabama that need help, that need voices, that need to spread the word, that need to highlight what they're doing? And he said he did know of some, he's going to put me in touch with them. But I think those kind of things, besides going down there, I may be going, but I just think this is the fight of our lives, and we need everybody to speak on this.
Do you remember when Trump said, just vote for me? You just have to do it this once. Then you don't have to do it again. Yep. We'll fix it. This is what he was talking about.
What do you have to lose? I remember that.
Yeah, he said just the once. This has always been the plan. And the problem is that we don't just need Black people mobilized. We need white people mobilized.
Yeah.
And I was telling Chris the other day, I was like, we need the churches. That's what we need. We need
you will get that. They will
about this. Yeah.
They're not going to be big on social, so it's up to us to highlight that. But I guarantee you, Black churches have always been in this fight. Souls to the polls. They're going to be organizing.
But the white churches. The white churches is what I'm saying. We need exactly. We need the pastors and the popes, the people who are willing to speak out and say, this isn't what we do. Like, this isn't who we are. This isn't what we do. And up until now, there's been this, we're not partisan. We're not, that's where it has to change. And even if it's not necessarily the pastors spreading the message, it's the church groups, right? We need the people in the groups being mobilized. So this is where my melanin deficient friends need to kind of come together and
these conversations that before it was, well, we don't really talk about politics. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you fucking do. Now you do. Because if you don't, we're not going to be able to talk about it at all, because they're going to take that from us. Because it's not going to just stop with Black people. It's going to keep going. And then it's going to be, like what they just did with Senator Louise Lucas, where they raided her office because, she was an enemy of this president because she was leading the redistricting effort. She was complicating their congressional takeover. So he went after her. And they're going to start coming after people who it's going to be McCarthyism 2026. This is not, and most people that have watched this unfold know that this is coming. And maybe, Chris and I were talking about this, maybe that's partially why we're seeing sort of a dulled response in some respects, is that people sort of anticipated this and they're kind of numb to his antics at this point. But I do feel like some people just don't necessarily understand the ramifications of this. People don't understand how this is so significant. They don't the Supreme Court case is complicated. Gerrymandering is confusing. Like, they're framing it so well. Also, because again, Republicans and their messaging is better than the Democrats. So they got out there and immediately started saying, what we're doing is anti-racist. Like, what we're doing is the opposite of racism, because we're eliminating racial gerrymandering. Because look at what Tennessee did today. And I just made a video on this, and I called everybody racist because they went in intentionally to crack, to separate, to cut in half a majority Black district. That was intentional. That's on purpose. That's not just like, let's see how the cards fall. We ran to the state legislature as soon as we had permission to eliminate those voices. So this is kind of
they voted during a tornado. A tornado.
In Alabama, they voted during tornado sirens. So for all you people in the comments that I know are doing really good work, I know you are because you're coming every week and you're listening to this. I encourage you to work with friends who are on the cusp, who are angry, who are upset, who are passionate, who care about this, that maybe before weren't necessarily ready to have conversations with their other friends, but now maybe they are. So this is where we have to start encouraging and giving other people confidence to get involved, because that's where the coalition building is happening in your communities, with people that are angry and frustrated and upset about what they're seeing, and maybe they didn't know what to do before, but now you're like, I got you. Here's some people that I want you to amplify. Here's some creators I want you to follow some Black creators who absolutely know what they're doing because they've been through this before, or they're, the people of the generation before have and taught them. And like Chris, I'm gonna let him talk about this because he has a really good take on it, but he's talked a lot about how his family speaks on these things and have always talked about these things because it impacts them. Whereas the white people, we don't have these conversations on our dinner tables, right? Chris, that's what you were telling me.
I'm not saying all Black families do this, but most people I know, this is also why I get so upset with like single issue voters, because we don't have that luxury. We have skin in the game, and Black families, Black people, they vote for their survival, to be honest. And so which candidate aligns with my interests, with my, continued freedoms? I'm not going to be like, if you took AIPAC money, that does matter to me, but that is not stopping. Like, if you're on my side on most of the things, like, that's what I care about. Okay. And I don't care about all this nonsense about like, oh, we can't do this because they did that or whatever. I just want to remind people too, for every dollar that Democrats get, Republicans get 5. And that is what we are dealing with. So when we have these purity tests, that's why Black people don't play in that game that much. Like, we're not like, you need money to run. I have my own red lines. Dark money sucks. And if it's a special interest group and you change your views because of that input of money, that's not okay. But you have to get funding. And to Casey's point, I've been saying this online. I wrote a Substack about it. I've been saying it to folks. Black people hand these stories down through their generations, through families. These are our kitchen table issues, right? And younger generations, like my son was a Bernie supporter. I mean, probably is still a Bernie supporter. We've butt heads, And I know at one point he was home for COVID, from college. And he was like, well, the Democrats have to give me a reason to vote. And I tell you, I saw red. I was like, boy, I will kill you in those shoes you're standing in. And not that long ago, my mother took, my son and I out to lunch. And he said that a very similar thing. He's like, Democrats really need to give people a reason to vote. And I saw the look on my mother's face, and she's in her late 70s. And she thought the same thing I thought. Is like, my grandparents didn't have a perfect candidate either, but they picked the best candidate that would keep their freedom alive, okay? That would be better for their future. So we always have to make a choice. And usually that's a Democrat, okay? I would say always a Democrat at this point.
At this point.
And I've said before, like, I think Republicans could actually swing elections with Black voters, because a lot of Black voters have conservative values, especially when it comes to social issues, but we're not voting for bigots. And so, if they just acted normal, they might get enough Black folks really in this, to align with them. But right now,
they're working on it. They're working on it behind the scenes, because I haven't released all the information, but they are 100% have PACs ready. They are targeting Black voters and trying to convert them to conservatives. They've got a whole pitch. So it's happening behind the scenes. And like Kamala just said, everything they do is long term.
Yeah,
so
keep
even
me
though
posted
right
on
now,
that, because I don't know. Like, I find it hard. They're not going to swing that many voters. Honestly, they're not. Like, I don't know
it's
what
not in the short term. I think this is a long term strategy, and that's why I'm concerned about
because
it.
also Black people are aware of what ICE has been doing. Those are people of color. We see now. I hope everybody's paying attention to what's going on in the South in record speed. So mentioned, Milena, you mentioned Alabama. Let's watch that clip. So my friend in Alabama made me aware of this early yesterday and was like, I think it was you, Michelle, that was talking about so he said there was a fire alarm pulled, but there was actually a tornado going on. So both were happening. Yeah.
Chris, before you start that, I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing that clip of Kamala Harris, because I literally felt chills when she said, we can't be nostalgic.
Yeah.
That, as somebody who's involved in my community voting, voting groups, trying to get people registered, etc., there is this sort of vibe of like, the pendulum swings both ways at some point. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop
My
it.
neighbor
You
said
cannot do
that
this
to me,
anymore.
and I tore his head a new one. We really, when you mentioned registering voters, that is something that every single person that cares about democracy needs to really focus on. Registering voters, getting involved with campaigns. We are in an emergency situation. And when you think of all the people who bled for our rights, who went and died for our rights.
Thank you.
The civil rights leader who died, their heads got smashed in, like John Lewis.
Yeah.
We cannot just sit back.
Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, John Lewis, goes on and on. Malcolm X.
Tennessee just got rid of that's insane to me, that the state where he was assassinated now does not have a majority Black voting district. Like, that's,
we're going to talk about Tennessee because there's something really alarming there. But let's just do this Alabama clip real quick.
Okay, so now they did they were gonna do the cloture. Now they just gonna take the vote over us. Oh, I forgot I got in trouble already. Okay, now y'all can see. Look at the mayhem. The mayhem. So some people have left, but we all in here. We all in here. That's right. I know that's right. No!
That's Senator Marika Coleman, state senator.
So all this mayhem. Y'all see it now. So they know that we need to be in the basement. So after we vote, now they telling us to step out, but I'm videoing. So they forced that vote. Okay, we got to go.
Listen to the background. Listen to what they're saying.
So now they got us going to the basement. Singleton. No.
So they're passing it.
Now, you know what? This don't even make sense. We should have gone into a recess and then waited until after the weather to take this vote. But they want to do this so bad. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So we have adjourned and forced that vote while we're all running to try to go to the tornado.
So they did it. And just to let everybody know, that was Senate Bill 1, a redistricting trigger law designed to blow up the court-ordered maps and rush through an emergency election if they win their challenge to the Milligan ruling. So this is not final yet. I don't know, Adam, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or anybody, but
actually, I think that the governor already signed it. So that it is law. I mean, you know what? Stop being babies, everybody. You want a reason to vote for a Democrat? How about you already lost your damn abortion rights? How about we're actually watching your voting rights get stripped? How about administrative agencies no longer get the respect that their experts deserve? You know, how about the president is treated like a damn king? Is that not enough? Or are you worried about AIPAC giving $10,000 to a congressman in a $1.5 million campaign worth of donations? Stop it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or the fact that those went in and got all of our data, and now a lot of that is on the dark web. And they're going to start using that data to track people down and lock people up and put them in detention centers.
This is kind of a good overview. This clip, Maddow, I think it was Monday. Watch this. This is kind of good overview, and it actually is kind of predictive a little bit.
Court gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the crowning achievement of the civil rights movement. And the before and after looks like the snapback after the end of Reconstruction, after the Civil War. I mean, look at the state of Louisiana there. A third of the population of Louisiana is black. Louisiana's Republican governor canceled congressional elections that are already underway in that state to rush through new maps that will presumably make sure that even though 1/3 of the population of that state is black, there will be no black representation in Congress for Louisiana at all. South Carolina, 1/4 of the population is black. They have one majority-minority district represented by an African-American Democrat, Jim Clyburn. They are going to try to get rid of that one black district so that South Carolina is all white, all Republican in representation, while 1/4 of the people who live in that state are black. In Tennessee, 1 in 6 residents is black. Republicans now want to make sure all 9 congressional seats in Tennessee are white, when 1 in 6 people in that state is black. In her dissent from the majority ruling, Justice Elena Kagan said it will likely cause the largest reduction to minority representation since the end of Reconstruction. She probably didn't need to use the word likely there. A comprehensive attack on black public officials in the federal government, black employees in the federal government, black representatives in Congress, and now all around the country, where everywhere Republicans are in charge, they are scrambling to make sure that black public officials can no longer hold office. We're in the middle of something really radical in this country, not just to get rid of our constitutional republic, to replace our form of government with something else, but to get rid of the multiracial democracy that our Constitution is supposed to protect. It is a war on black America. The fight to save it is looking like it's going to be the fight of all of our lives.
You know, back in college, I'm sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead.
Back in college,
I studied and protested and wrote a senior thesis on apartheid. And when apartheid ended, I never expected it to reappear, least of all in the United States. This is, 40 years ago, and I am just appalled and shocked and just simply speechless that this is happening here. It used to be the fact that under the Voting Rights Act, that what would be seemingly neutral policies, if they had an adverse impact upon Black voters, they would be ruled improper and congressional maps had to be redrawn. Now, it's so far the other way that you actually, in accordance with Alito's decision, have to prove that there was specific intent or specific evidence of racism, which I can tell you, because I deal with a similar standard in a very different way in my field of law, is extremely difficult to do. Basically, Alito is saying, if you do not have a smoking gun that says, oh yeah, we want to discriminate against Black people, you cannot prevail and get maps to be redrawn. It is just patently absurd, offensive, racist, white nationalist, and wrong.
Intentionally. Not
Intentionally.
accidentally.
Absolutely.
Intentionally. And that needs to be said over and over, because they are being fed, obviously on the other side, a totally different rhetoric. They are being fed they are the heroes in the story, that they are the ones that are policing this for the greater good. And it needs to be said that this, as we go forward in history, this was a choice, an intentional choice. And the goal of this choice was to disenfranchise Black people, because they are the strongest voting bloc of the Democratic Party that cannot be compromised in a way that's significant like white people can. And that's it. But they're not going to stop with Black voters, right? So this is where they're starting, but they're going to keep going. And so this is intentional. It needs to be said.
And so that is exactly what I was saying earlier, in that our hair needs to be on fire and we all need to get into this fight. And it's like the previous generations where people have been called up to fight the Nazis in World War II. Well, now we have to fight the Nazis here in the United States, because
fight the Confederates that we never fought the first time. And that's the problem, is that we never dealt with it after after Civil War. We just built statues to them and moved on. It's crazy.
And it's so empowering, actually, when you go and you volunteer and you make the phone calls and you knock on doors. You feel like $1 million when you do it, because you see the actual progress that you're making, and you see that you're making a difference. And everything is kind of depressing, because it's an attack on everything. It's an attack on our democracy that's going on right now. But by volunteering and getting involved, and it's easy to do, you feel like, wow, I'm making so much good, positive change, and I am making a difference. And it really changes your whole attitude towards things. You see that you have power. And, when it comes to the attack on the Black community, who are the most important segment of the Democratic Party, because they are such a strong voting support. They're such strong supporters of the Democratic Party, not just as voters, but as volunteers, as
That's
donors.
why they're doing it. Because we are the most loyal voting bloc. And so they want to destroy that. They want it to not, have any.
The Republicans have that, and we've talked about that. They have that base of people that are always going to show up for them. The Democrats don't have that in anybody but the Black voters. That's the only portion of voters that they can consistently rely on. And that's also why we get frustrated when the Democratic Party does shit that, like not saying that they're perfect, because they oftentimes neglect and are, I think, disrespectful of that voting bloc. But Republicans want to erase it entirely, and that's the problem here. Is that's the intent behind this, and the fact that there's anybody reporting on this in the media, acting like there's some sort of legitimacy. You need to stop looking at this Supreme Court as a legitimate court. And I know that's very difficult to do because the judicial branch was supposed to be the one branch that we like had some reverence for, and that we look to our courts as the deciders, as the, impartial people that were somehow like above like the rest of us.
Yeah.
No,
And on
we're done
that
with
note, I'd like to read this part of Justice Alito's opinion. In large part because of the Voting Rights Act, our nation has made great strides in eliminating racial discrimination in voting. And if, as a result of this progress, it is hard to find pertinent evidence relating to intentional present-day voting discrimination, that is cause for celebration. I mean, this is exactly why we need to build upon the Voting Rights Act. What we are seeing right now, this is offensive to me. Like yeah.
This man would tout separate but equal, like 100%. That this is where we're going. This is the justification. It's like they're just going to dial down, in their opinion, the racism, deny that it's there, and give you an alternative that they think is just fine. And that's what they're trying to sell and make everybody else just become numb to. And honestly, people are so exhausted right now that it's tempting for some people to do that. And this is why we need people who are in and online and in these groups, people that are coming to lives like this, going back and telling their friends, like, no, this is different. And we promise, like, think about Roe and then multiply that like a bunch, because the fallout from this is significant. And so we're going to have the conversations that are uncomfortable, that people maybe didn't want to have. Also, don't worry about overreacting. You don't need to worry about it. You're not going to overreact. I so promise. Like on this time, don't worry about it. You're never going to.
We're underreacting right now. We are underreacting.
Always. So don't think about it as like, oh, well, I don't want to be responsible. Dave, don't worry about it. Like, look at what the other parties do. You're good. You're so good. Like, just lean into it and make sure people understand. Like, whatever you can speak to people if everybody has a thing, right? Everybody has something that you can connect with. The relationships that we have to build outside and offline are what's necessary to build the coalitions to get people to come to the polls. Because that's part of the problem is people don't want to show up because they don't think their vote matters. They think that both parties are corrupt or the same or like whatever. We have to dispel that and show them that, in fact, no, one party actually wants to descend us into 1856. So let's not do that. It's not.
And part of the reason that this is such an offensive lie is that the part of the point of the Voting Rights Act is where there is not evidence of intentional direct discrimination, and but still adversely affects and discriminates against Black voters. Yeah, the Voting Rights Act was there to protect against that.
Alito's rationale is very much akin to, I have a chronic disease, so I take some medication for it, and then I feel better, so I stop taking the medication. But the medication was the thing that made you feel better. So you need to keep taking the medication. And that is the Voting Rights Act. He's saying we made all this progress. We made all this progress because of that law, not because people changed, not because especially that segment of the country changed.
And I would argue with some of that progress and say that we still have a very significant issue with systemic racism and a disadvantage that is existing right now that we really didn't roll back much of, to be honest. And what we did was we told everybody that color is blind and everything's equal, and we never created equity. So there actually wasn't anything like that. That's the other part of the problem is that the Republicans have been lying to people since before Reagan, trying to convince us all that everything's fine. And that in fact, these laws are harming Black people. That's the other thing, is they're trying to suggest that voting rights was actually like hurting the Black population, which I feel like is an even greater insult. So like, not only are they rolling it back, but now they're trying to tell you that the actual thing that was helping was hurting them. Come the fuck on. I can't.
And so, let's not forget Republicans are still wanting to pass the SAVE Act, right?
Yep.
Which is basically taking away any married woman's and that they've said it. They've said, I think I should have control over my wife's vote, right? Or my family's vote. It's not stopping here, y'all. Wake up. Wake up, get busy, get involved, speak out, talk to your friends, talk to your family.
The
Yes, this
goalposts are
cannot
moved
be quiet.
slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. It's just slow growth. It's like mold. Okay, like it comes in and it like presents itself and then it starts to grow slowly over time, and then eventually it gets out of control. And that's what this authoritarianism is, and that's what this white nationalism, and that's what this Christian evangelical bullshit is. It's all of that. It's the Republicans have sat down and done kumbaya around some sort of circle jerk situation on some kind of retreat, like where they all sat down and discussed this plan. And that's why you have all these red states immediately rushing out to redistrict, because they are a part of this. This isn't just accidentally happening. This isn't organic. This isn't just the moment created. Like, they've planned this. This is on purpose, because this is what they wanted to do from the beginning. So it's not stopping here. There's more to come. And I'm honestly frustrated that there aren't more Rachel Maddow. Like, I'm frustrated that there aren't more people reading this decision and going, what? Like, it's insulting to me that the Supreme Court has put this decision out and told me to just eat it. Like, I'm insulted by that. They've just like wrapped up a pile of shit, set it on fire, and been like, here's the decision. Don't you want to eat it? I'm like, what? This is insane.
By the way, Chris Webb, we're going to keep interrupting you and not let you speak until we are completely done white-splaining the way this works to you, okay? Just so you understand.
I mean, they said they wanted to hear from the white people to talk
It's
to our
all
white
good.
people.
And I just want to point out, because we're going to circle back to this Alito opinion here, but what he's saying is everything is fine, and we're actually making it, fair again for Black people. And I'm going to circle back on this because I have some stuff to show y'all. But let's look at Tennessee, because we talked about Alabama. This was Tennessee yesterday.
State legislators here are already actively at work to make that happen. So Tennessee is confronted with a situation where both the House and Senate here are controlled by Republicans. There's a governor who's willing to sign these maps into law. So Democrats are aware and state that there's little they can do to prevent these maps from going through. That being said, they are trying to fight in the ways that they can, including by galvanizing the base, speaking out about the issue. If you look over my shoulder, you can actually see a couple dozen House and Senate Democrats, as well as their supporters here, just speaking out about what we're seeing, about the fact that these maps, for instance, would eliminate the only Democratic district in the state, the only predominantly Black district in the state, if Republicans are successful, and really now trying to ensure that the procedural matter of this special session is fair. So pushing for things like a 24-hour at a minimum review period of any potential maps, pushing for things like transparency into the designing of that map by the in-house counsel here. I actually want to play for you a portion of remarks by State Representative Justin Jones. He represents a district in Nashville, and he actually spoke out in the Rules Committee hearing, pushing to ensure Democrats are given equal access and transparent right to speak out about any concerns as this process is underway. Take a listen.
Let us speak for the 70,000 people who sent us up here to be their voice. Let us speak for the people whose voices you're taking away. Let us be a part of the conversation. And so if we have our hand up, don't let the speaker determine it arbitrarily, where he gets to say certain members can speak and certain members are invisible. They don't exist. Because that's what you're doing. You're taking us back to that Jim Crow system where people like us couldn't even walk into the same doors and be treated like equal members of this institution.
So this is
the most important vote we will ever take. It's the most important vote that the Republicans will ever take. We know where we stand. We stand on the right side of history. This is about race and diluting the representation of Blacks and brown people in Memphis, Tennessee.
This is serious. This is gravely serious for people. People fought, died, were tortured for the right to vote. And so for the world needs to be watching this, because what is happening today will happen to the rest of the country.
But ultimately, the biggest frustration from Memphis residents I speak to is you have to remember every single Black legislator that has ever gone to Congress from Tennessee has come from the former District 9. The concern here is if that district is carved up, that just won't happen again and again. It's just one of many things that are frustrating voters here in this moment. The large crowd of people gathered outside of the Senate chambers right now as lawmakers there begin discussion or continue debate over this legislation. And prepare for a final vote any moment now. Like, I want to remind you, Chris, some of the conversations we're hearing inside that chamber room, one thing people have pointed out is with the new design of this map, you're going to have areas of Memphis, which I will remind you, a predominantly black city, the final place Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his speech before his assassination, sharing a district with an area like Pulaski, Tennessee, a small farm town 200 miles away that is the birthplace of the KKK. In addition to the historical and cultural significance there, it also speaks to what state lawmakers are pointing to as an operational flaw with this plan. How can a congressional representative effectively speak to the needs of an urban center like Memphis, as well as a smaller farm town 200 miles away?
So that is such an important point, such an ironic point. And correct me if I got the district wrong, but I believe it's District 9 today. After this, this scene in the House in Tennessee, it did pass. So they were successful in redistricting. District 9 was carved up into 3 districts. That was a historic black district, right? One of those districts, so they kind of folded it into 3 predominantly white districts, and one of them was the birthplace of the KKK. So you are now in a district that is the birthplace of the KKK. I mean, I can't find more irony than that, and it's just
they did that on purpose.
Of course,
that's not an accident. Yeah. This is they are. Well, I would say normally passive aggressive, but this is aggressive aggressive. But it might look passive aggressive to people that don't know history, right? This was on purpose. They not only are they doing these things, but they're looking back, winking and laughing about it. That's the other part, is that they were relishing this. They love this, which is what I said in my video earlier. If you are a part of the Republican Party now, they are in the best case scenario. The best case scenario is they're hurting black people. That's the best case scenario. Okay, really what they're doing is intentionally hurting black people on purpose because they don't want them to have power. This is nuts. The way they're doing this is they're like sadists. Like, it's crazy. I don't think it's talked about enough, the kind of viciousness of the Republican Party. That needs to be discussed more, because these were the people, by the way, these people were the ones that were the Klan, right? They like to say, "Oh, the Democrats started the Klan." Their ideology,
probably still are.
and that's exactly right. The ideology shifted to in names of the parties, and so the people who would have been in the KKK back when the Democrats, quote unquote, founded it, are Republicans now. Are the modern day. They share the same values. The KKK endorses this Republican Party. That's who they tell you to go vote for. There's a reason for that. That's not on accident. And I think it's not discussed enough, because people, I don't know if they just want to believe good in other people, or they just don't want to believe that their party is racist. But if you are supporting the Republican Party at this point, you are supporting a party of racism that isn't just accidentally partaking in it, that is willfully, intentionally, on purpose, hurting people in the same way that people were enslaving their ancestors. And many slave owners not only obviously were treating them as property, but were brutal, right? Like, that's the point. Like, they're relishing this. We can't let this happen again. Like that, we can't. It's already gone too far, but we can't let them go any farther. We have to stop this.
Here's where Democrats need to take some inspiration from the radical Republicans after the Civil War, where and this falls into that same thing of what Kamala Harris was saying, of you need to be ruthless. The radical Republicans did as much as they did because they were not following the technical rules, that they were thinking outside the box, that they were pushing boundaries, and were doing things that maybe technically were not legal, but they knew that it's what needed to be done to get the legislation and especially to get the Reconstruction Amendments passed. That is what Democrats need to do now. It is not a time to think about playing fair. It is a time to think every Republican state is going to be a straight Republican state. There will not be a Democratic representative there. So if you want to play that game, then every Democratic state that has a trifecta needs to do the exact same thing. And we will figure this out later, but right now, that is what needs to be done for us not to meet our demise as a country.
They're not going to play fair.
And
They're
how crazy
cheating.
is this? Look at Louisiana, what they just pulled. Like, let me play this video.
From overnight, the Washington Post reports that Governor Jeff Landry plans to suspend the May House primary election so that lawmakers can pass a new map.
The reporting says that Governor Jeff Landry told Republican candidates for the House of Representatives that he plans to suspend next month's primary elections, giving lawmakers time to pass a new map. The reporting cites two people who said that they were aware of this conversation.
We have, as you know, a primary coming up in about 2 weeks.
How is this even legal, though? Like, you know, like it's actually their election was already underway. Absentee ballots were mailed out. And he's just going to suspend the part that affects the House? Like, what?
Because states have more latitude to enforce their own election laws and to create their own election laws.
I think that this is the most important thing that's going on right now. It's, in my opinion, the most important thing. It's in order to save our democracy, we need to make sure that we get the message out to Democratic lawmakers that they need to be ruthless, that they need to make sure that they redistrict, not leaving 4 districts like they did in California for the Republican, leaving 0 districts, just like they are being ruthless. We have to save our democracy. And if we're just
that has to come from the people. You're totally right. But the Democrats are weak often because of the fact that they have been punished at the polls. So they need permission from people like us. They need, like, those rallies and marches. That is one of the things people talk about them not being like useful, but that actually is, because it is a visual reminder of how many people do not support this administration and these policies. You need to be calling your members of Congress on a regular basis. You need to be showing up where you can and doing what you can to insist that you feel this way, because they need to know they have your permission to be ruthless. I know they shouldn't. I get it. And I'm with Kamala on this. You should just be ruthless, right? But there are still some people that, for whatever reason, they're concerned that they'll lose their job and then all the Republicans will take over. And maybe that's part of it, is that they're really fearful right now. They want to make sure that they've got support from the people moving forward. We have to all act, kind of, somebody said, in tandem. That's what needs to happen. We all need to do this together. The representatives need to be ruthless, but the people need to give them that permission. And not just permission, but like tell them actively, this is how we want you to act. Take no prisoners because we're not going back. That's what needs to happen.
And you need to call your state legislators. You need to call, Google it. Google your address.
And just really quick on this, I know I talked a lot, but I want to remind everybody that this is, as a teacher, I can't leave without telling you, this is such an important time to stay invested in local and state politics for this exact reason. When you vote, you don't just vote for the president and your like national congressional legislature. You vote for everything, and that includes these state bodies that oftentimes will confirm judges at that level, right? Like, so you've got a lot of people. It's not just the president or the governor that picks people, but there's oftentimes other bodies that are helping to confirm these judges that stay on the bench, by the way, longer than the governor is in office, as we've seen with the president, right? Longer than he's in office, these people will be around. And people oftentimes forget that there are different layers of courts, right, that are happening, and that the Supreme Court doesn't have to take every case. They don't take all the cases. So some of these judgments that are happening at these appellate levels and other levels of district levels, those aren't going anywhere. It's what they say. That's what it is. So people forget that you're voting for a lot of different things, and people who make decisions for things that outlast the current body. So this whole, the pendulum will swing. If they get tons of judges in, it doesn't swing that quickly. It doesn't just, I mean, we're talking, like in 50 years it swings, right? Like, or however long these people live, or whatever the individual state. All states have different, like, right? There's different rules for different bodies. But my point being is that this isn't just an election cycle. This is so much longer than that. And now who you vote for has we're not being hyperbolic, is what I'm saying. We're like, as I said earlier, we're underreacting.
This may not get fixed in our lifetime. Like, this is that bad. And that's a really depressing thought, but people are making that thought, and I think it's accurate. Let's not forget about Florida.
One of Governor DeSantis' final big moves during his time.
You want to jump in, Adam? Go ahead.
Yeah, before you get to Florida, just to point out how insidiously evil what's going on in Louisiana is.
Yeah.
There are some 40 to 50,000 people that have already cast a vote in this election that's been canceled. That's the first thing. Second thing is that in these voting rights cases, there is case law which says that they are not supposed to act within a certain period of time prior to election. And the third and most pernicious thing is that the Supreme Court has, in fact, ruled that congressional maps were unconstitutional in states like Alabama and I believe also Mississippi, but told Black voters, I'm sorry, but there's nothing that we can do about it until the next cycle. So they've had to use these maps, these unconstitutional maps, for 2 years. Yet Louisiana immediately gets to stop an election and redraw their maps.
And here's what's crazy. These are super majorities. And this is why state legislator like that, I think that often gets overlooked. You know, we're thinking about governor here in California. We're lucky enough we have a blue, legislative body. But a lot of states with these super majorities, they can do, like, they've acted lightning speed. And it's going to take, Adam, to your point, there are lawsuits like NAACP made a lawsuit today in Tennessee. There's a lawsuit in Florida, and but these take time. So they're doing this shit. They're doing this evil shit super quick, and to fight it, it's going to take time. So it's just really, I don't know.
So when you get involved in elections, don't just get involved in the congressional races.
In the
get
federal
involved in the state legislature races as well, and local races.
Yeah, because your governor needs support from the legislative body. They need, it's not the governor and then the national election that matters. It's your governor and then his or her support.
And also, just on Adam's point, the part that's like so shady where they're only kind of deferring to Republican needs. That's what's happening in Virginia. They challenged our redistricting amendment, and they did it on the grounds that we didn't give a full 90 days before early voting started. Right? Not like it was before the general, but so they're using the law when it suits them. And that's the fucking problem, is that they're cherry picking when they want to follow the law and when they don't. And when they don't, they immediately use it to their advantage, and everybody else suffers. And they're gleefully doing this. And that's the part that really just bothers me, is it's the hypocrisy of it all. And then for them to stand back and be like, but we're the patriots. Like, fuck you are. Absolutely not. And start calling these people out like that. I'm done pretending that there is some sort of equivalence between these parties. Fuck that shit. There is not. There is absolutely one party that wants to end this country with the white men in power, and that's it. And that's the Republican Party. And they don't give a damn about anybody else. It needs to be said. And also, white rich men. They don't care about you middle class people.
I am all out of fucks officially. And so I'm going to be saying some things that, I don't know. I'm very cognizant of where not to cross the line of getting banned, but I'm not nice anymore.
I have been freed.
Yeah.
This is one of Governor DeSantis' final big moves during his time as governor. And this is one that could have far-reaching implications beyond just what happens at the state level, even at the local level. But of course, as we look to the midterms, in terms of the national conversation, DeSantis urging lawmakers during the special session beginning today to approve a new congressional map just unveiled the day before, just yesterday. A map that would give Republicans a much stronger hold in Florida than they already have. In Tampa Bay, this means a major shakeup. Districts would be redrawn, Democratic voters would be packed into fewer areas, and Republicans would gain an advantage in more seats. The change could cost Democrats their only friendly district in the region.
It's totally appropriate to use as a factor how the population may have shifted in a given area. So maybe you draw a line going one way in a county instead of the other.
But there are risks. Some Republicans warn that if districts get too competitive for them now, Democrats could actually pick up seats in a bad year for the GOP, and legal challenges are expected as soon as this passes. Now, this also puts DeSantis back in the national conversation as he looks for his next political move post being governor. For now, though, all eyes on Tallahassee today as lawmakers decide just how far they'll take this. It appears very, very likely that this redrawn map will pass.
So it passed. And there is a lawsuit, but, I don't know. I don't know what gets fixed for 2026. It doesn't sound like much.
The fact that they left Democratic districts shows that they couldn't crack them enough. And that speaks to what the reporter just said of there is the stark reality that they just dummy mandered, that they will lose seats. Because were they more confident, they would have broken up those Democratic districts as Tennessee did to make it 100% Republican.
They can't. Florida is a truly
they
purple
knew they
state.
couldn't, because Florida is more purple than we realize.
So what we have shown tonight, I think, is the decision was last Wednesday. All of these things have been happening lightning fast. They were ready to go. And I want to make another point. Like we read off Alito's part of Alito's opinion, and I made this point before, and there's data to back this up. But my prediction was the right and their helpers, the right, were going to come out and basically saying that this is not racist. This is actually eliminating race as a factor. You Black person still have the same vote you had before. So this is actually fine. This is the messaging coming out of the right, and I knew it was going to, and I'm going to show you guys stuff. So this was, and I get hate in my posts all the time. So I'm not showing you the real hateful shit, okay? But I posted this earlier about Tennessee, and I want to share some of the responses. And my point here is not to be like, oh, I'm getting this or that. It's we're talking social media for a minute here. The prevailing voice is the right, not the left at the moment, because the right is basically saying this is not racist. No matter what I say, it's racist. There aren't enough of me to say it. So basically, the sentiment is with the right, that this is actually anti-racist what they're doing, okay? And so this is why I'm saying, everybody watching tonight, everybody joining us, you need to call it what it is: racist gerrymandering, and whatever variant of that you want. But we need to drown this shit out. So this is one. Current Black majority representative. This is in response to my Tennessee post. This is a man eating fried chicken. This is someone else trying to explain to me, no Black voter has lost the right to vote. No Black representative has lost any office by removing the forced separate but equal district. Please explain your desire for separate but equal to be retained, even though twice now the court has declared it unconstitutional.
Are they Republicans explaining separate but equal to you?
This is when people get used to preferential treatment. Equal treatment seems like discrimination. So
they love that one.
We're being equal.
They love that one.
Your Black majority representation has created one of the most dangerous cities in the entire United States. How in all the fuck can you think that a change in leadership is a bad thing? This is my favorite. Jim Crow Democrats. So these are just a few. Like, I just scrolled through this one thing. So I don't know if white people get this kind of stuff. I really don't. But I bet you, Casey, I would like you to talk about, like, when you are calling out racism, I bet you get this kind of stuff too. But I think that if enough people are calling this what it is, we will drown this out. And right 100%. Now, not enough people are. They are being silent. And I think it's very different to call someone a racist. I just want to level set this. I'm not calling a particular racist. I don't have time to run around and call people racist, okay? But this is a racist act, what they are doing. And I think anyone with eyes and ears can call it a racist act. You are seeing this unfold within 1 week. Go ahead, Adam. I can see you want to.
Donald Trump is a racist.
Yeah, I was
okay.
gonna say I got time for it. I did a lot of it. I'll do it for you. I called a lot of people racist today.
Yeah,
But
I will
that's
never
because
claim a bigot as my president. So there's that.
right. So to your point, Chris. Yes, I get this. Not to the extent you do, because I said today, and like, y'all should see his comments. He's constantly just inundated on Twitter with terrible people. But a reminder that not everybody is real. Number one, remember that some of these are bots.
Like I believe this is a bot. Some of those other ones weren't. And let me add this too.
That is.
This is not just about. This is Russia giving us propaganda. They have their fingers on this too. This is not just domestic bullshit, but we still have to deal with it. We are everyone on this call, everyone watching right now is on social media, and they are taking the narrative. So if you don't put your 2 cents in regularly, they win. And this is how we lost Hillary Clinton. We got Trump the first time because of this nonsense. You know, a lot of these Russian bots and things were masquerading as Black Lives Matter, trying to cause conflict. They are doing, this is an opportunity for them. So I need everyone to understand that like this is happening within a week and it's going to get worse. So
I need everybody to push back on that. Like Chris just said, every time you hear someone go, oh, well, they're just bots. Okay, then you need to like respond. You don't necessarily need to go 7 layers deep.
I'm not saying chase these people. I'm saying put out your own messaging, independent messaging that this is racism going on in the South and other places.
We can't let this kind of shit happen. This also is happening to a lot of Jewish people as well online. We cannot let this go. We cannot let this go. We must push back. And by the way, even if they're bots, when you push back on them, other people are going to see it, and other people will also get braver and push back. And also,
that's exactly right.
It brings up your posts in the algorithm. So don't be afraid of the bots. Engage with them and call them out, because if you are just sitting there and like just going, oh, it's just a bot and letting it happen, that in my opinion is complicit racism. You got to stand up against this crap. You can't just let people get away with it.
I think people don't realize it, Melina. I think they really don't understand, like, they don't understand. They've been taught to ignore it. They've been taught that these people are just bad agitators, and like that if they engage with it, they're giving them more attention. I think that there's been some miseducation around this, or rather maybe what was good back then is not now. And so
it's shifted, I think.
Reframing that. We're reframing that to let you know that they then, if you don't respond, they get the entire audience. They get all the messaging, they get all the attention, and people are coming and they're seeing what they wrote. And it's if we all start doing it, like Melina said, it's modeling, number one, teaching other people how to do it. But number two, there are some people who aren't bots that are regurgitating those bot comments because they've been told that. Now, you're not going to save everybody, and that's important to remember, that we're not here to save the really lost. Okay, like they are what they are, racist. Let
me just jump in here. So this comment is dead on. Yes, don't chase and feed trolls. Just do your own thing. Put on your own message. So I want to be really clear on social media strategy, and I'm speaking specifically on X. It's a little different on Blue Sky. We don't have this kind of shit on Blue Sky. Threads also is different, but on X, don't, like, if there's a troll, it's really easy to tell from the troll. If there's an account from 2019 and they have 30 followers, don't bother. You're just arguing with the bot. But so basically, if you have X amount of, like, let's say you have 2,000 followers and there is a troll that has 30, by you replying to them, it gives them visibility. Don't reply. What I'm trying to tell everybody is do your own thing. Like when you're posting, when you're seeing stuff on Tennessee or Louisiana, call it racist gerrymandering on your own, on your individual post, or reply to mine or someone else's who is doing it. Do those kind of choices. But all this bullshit in my replies, like, just unless you see a noteworthy account, which that happens too. There's big accounts that will jump in my replies and talk nonsense. I think that's different. Like, I think you can reply. To them.
There's a different thing for threads. It is different in threads. If you're on threads and you're witty, I would say responding to other people's comments, especially in other people's, like I would go to Chris's thread and respond to somebody like a troll there. You can get, like, I have a comment today that I posted on somebody that was making fun of masks. And last I saw it had like 46,000 likes, like a response. This is like me responding to somebody
You have much
else's
more visibility
post.
and replies on Threads, 100%.
It's
But
a
you also have
totally
less
different
trolls.
platform. So it's a totally
Yeah.
different platform. So I'm saying you can put stuff there. And even if you want to respond to somebody like in a Facebook thread, that's if you're feeling called and you have like a good response ready, like I don't hate that. Like I don't necessarily hate it. But I think just remembering that this doesn't represent what everybody feels, because sometimes you get upset because you're seeing this and you're like, oh my God, a real person. A lot of these people aren't real. They're bots. Just that doesn't mean we don't respond or we don't have a messaging. It means that we don't take it to heart. And it's not like our neighbor said something evil about us, right? Like that's not what's happening here. There's more people on our side. We just need to make sure that they're activated and that we do
And
that
I
by
think
leaving
that
a trail.
like, the race word is difficult for people. People aren't used
Yeah.
to saying it. And so I'm just saying, get used to it because it's here.
I just want to say that there is this on Blue Sky, and it's generally directed at Jewish people. There's a lot of it directed at Jewish people, but I'm sure it's also directed at a lot of other groups. It does exist on Blue Sky because I've been recipient, and so have a lot of my friends. But here's the other thing about responding, and not necessarily responding to them, but just responding in general. It does hurt my soul when I see these things. It hurts my soul, even if I know it's a bot and I don't see anybody else responding to it. It hurts my soul. Like, don't people give a crap that there are people saying this evil stuff?
Get that.
Saying like, oh, they should all they should have all burned in ovens and stuff like that. I've seen that before.
Well, yeah, but
like,
let's be
not
real
one
to your
response.
point really fast, Melania, is that it started with a person. These bots are programmed.
Yes.
It started with a human being. So I get that when you say it hurts my soul. I see it. And
Somebody
it's like
somewhere wanted
heartbreaking.
that said, and that's crazy.
And so that's why I say respond, because if you can teach people, like I have done a lot of like education about like, wait a second, you're conflating Israel with Jewish people. And in some cases, that's another story, but you can teach people. You can teach people without calling them racism, talking about bias. Everybody's got bias. And when you say, well, let's take a look at bias, and everybody has bias, you can actually get through to people sometime, and they can realize like, oh, well, I didn't mean that. And oh, I'm learning, because nobody is perfect. And I have had a lot of people say, you know what, I'm learning. And I didn't think of it in that perspective. And you're not going to get through to everyone, but every once in a blue moon, you'll get through to someone, and that makes the difference. And if
you're
not,
getting through to people also that don't comment.
Right.
To your point, Milena, because there's people who will never feel comfortable commenting, but they are lurkers and they're reading stuff. So when you're leaving these like all the stuff all the threads that Chris writes on Twitter, for every 20 comments that he gets, there's like thousands of people that have read that and didn't comment. There's people that shared it out of the app. There's people that had conversations about it around their dinner table, that pulled it up on their phone and showed it to people that didn't comment. So even if you have a small account and you're like, well, nobody's really seeing that. No, that's not true. Number one, you are a voice and there is a collective. And when more people add to that collective, it does make a difference. 100%. This is why the Republicans have been so effective, because they've been able to engage their base to do this. And the Democrats now have to do this in a way that we haven't before. And that means leaving all these breadcrumbs and the ruthlessness. And I think, quite honestly, now is the time for snark. If you have it, bring it. Like, now is the time to be insolent about this, to be unwaveringly, absolutely outraged by it in a very visceral public way of no racism in my fucking front or backyard. I'm not doing this. And that has to be said in a loud and a very impactful way, which means that we have to be comfortable commenting. But for the people that aren't, it's important to know that when you do share and repost, that's also really impactful. So even if you're not commenting, if you're reposting or even sending to your friends, like if you're just screenshotting and sending that to people, that's also helpful. That travels. You've seen like when people can't crop shit and like all of a sudden it shows up like it's been shared like 20 times. Like that happens. That's organic and that's meaningful. So again, like I think a lot of people need to kind of this weekend regroup and kind of think about where they can recruit somebody in their real life to kind of come either be online or in real life as somebody that's speaking out and talking about this. Like when you go, I've talked about this before, like you go to Costco and they're like, hey, how's your day today? I'm really upset because I just saw that Tennessee did this, or like whatever is relevant to you, whatever you saw that day that matters
instead
to
of
you,
I'm fine.
you say it.
Yeah.
Don't say you're fine because you're not.
No,
like these are
I'm
tough
not.
times.
Especially
And
today.
you don't need to get right. And you don't need to get like deep into it. You can just say, like, man, like sometimes I'm like, Donald Trump's still president and it really sucks and I don't like it. And I just say that and people are like, I hear you. And I'm like, yeah, like hopefully we can vote out, you know, the Republicans at midterms, right? And so you're having those conversations that like just remind people that they have power that they can use if they get involved. And I think if everybody were doing that, if we were all day long just saying one or two things to even random strangers, it would make a difference. That's not just like a weird PSA, it's the truth.
I want to also, I'm going to make another point here to kind of drive this home. It does work. So like if you drown out these monsters or whatever, it does change the analytics. It does change the narrative. And I want y'all to know, politicians are seeing this shit. And if they see that we're silent, they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be loud either. Okay. And so we had a group together, and a lot of y'all are my friends. You were in this too. Kamala Harris, this is pre her running. Okay. She was VP and Biden was, going to run for his other term. We saw that her sentiment was incredibly low. And a lot of that was bots, the misogynoir boosting. Okay. Then she had like outright racism and disinformation. It was just crazy. We had started a group and it was great. And I ran reports and it worked. We put out the correct information. We squashed that shit down and it wasn't a social storm. It wasn't a tweet storm. It was just constant talk. When she made an appearance, we boosted it. We made our comments. We did standalone posts. We took an old video of hers and showed that actually, no, she didn't put black, we told the truth. And the report shifted from like 20% sentiment score to 70% sentiment score just from us, just from our group. And so if you have a lot of people that are saying the right things, they're actually calling this racist, that we're not going to stand for this, Republicans. I don't know how long this is going to take, but we're going to fight you. And I actually think those of us in safe spaces, those of us like, for example, Melina, Michelle, and I are in California, Adam's in New York, Casey's in Virginia. I feel like we are obligated to help people that are losing their rights. Like, I feel like we should figure out how to help. And I'm reaching out to people, and we need to when we hear, I'm gonna share it with you guys, and maybe you guys will do the same, because this is not a short fight. This is not, and this is not something we can ignore. So the other thing I want to say, and I'll shut up and we can say goodnight or whatever if you guys want to say something else. We're going to need to really drive home anything we can help with voting. But I think the number one thing is vote early, because there's going to be all kinds of shenanigans, and we cannot afford for people to do same day voting and not know how to cast their ballot. That is going to be Tennessee today. Just passed a measure where they don't have to notify you if they change your polling place. That is not okay, and that's going to be very problematic. I guarantee you, they don't even know that exists. They're not going to get notified, and they're going to be thinking it's the wrong polling place.
I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I really do feel like as we get closer, we'll have some maybe like sidebar little specials that we do where we target like maybe one specific thing about voting, and we help like share some information about that or some strategies or whatever as we get closer. I think we're going to have to do that because there's just too much going on with the Republicans. We can't afford to just like skip out on that.
And if you're not registered, go to iwillvote.org, iwillvote.org, or voyavotar.com.
That's a safe
iwillvote.com.
place to go. Like direct, always your Secretary of State, but I Will Vote connects to your state information, so you can check voter status. You can, it's really important. That's like a go-to if you're posting and just want to give somebody a link. That you can't go wrong with that. So,
I think that's .com. Sorry, not .org. I think it's .com.
I was going to say, I thought it was .com.
It's iwillvote.com.
.com.
Correct. And it automatically goes to your state wherever you are. So, so you don't have to worry about doing an individual link. Well, guys, there's going to be more shenanigans to come, and this is just awful, hateful. But I appreciate everybody's voice. I think we can all say that. And let me get rid of this ugly. Sorry.
I was going to say, I have been staring at those a long time.
Yeah, I apologize. Anyway, I think it's a wrap. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. So thanks, everybody. And good night, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.